I think we're live. Let's fucking jump into it, right? Ladies and gentlemen, holy crap, back at it again. Enjoying ourselves, having fun, living the dream. Look, so I'm upset, right? Because I still haven't gotten the pet. Alright. Still haven't gotten the pet. We still chilling though, right? So we did a lot of research yesterday, and this is what we found out. We found out some really interesting and valuable pieces of information. The first thing that we found out was the thing that's called threshold doesn't mean that we need to get that many kills to be on the table, right? So I was afraid to even get on the rare drop table for Krill. We had to have a threshold of 5,000 kills? Or no, it's 1,000 kills. A threshold of 1,000 kills, right? That was my concern. Turns out that threshold is actually, once we reach that threshold, it increases our chances of getting the pet, which is cool. Doesn't really help us too much. And the unfortunate thing we also learned is that this little fucker right here, Luck of the Dwarves, does not affect boss pets. So, you know, I feel like I got gypped a little bit. I was a little hyperbolic before. I was complaining, fussing, you know what I do, and I was saying that it wasn't worth it. It's clearly worth it, right? Like, I was just upset. Oh. Show. Huh. I'm wondering. No. So I was wondering if it was worth getting, like, some Zammy, so that we're not just, like, mogged right at the gate. But, I mean, like, honestly, we're such a high level, it doesn't even fucking matter. How long have we been streaming, by the way? Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Hold up. I'm just now noticing this, because I'm retarded. Give me a second. Runescape will be on the stream in a minute, okay? Just chill. I can't believe I made this mistake. Am I actually retarded? I might actually be retarded. Okay. There we go. Transition. Boom. Back at it again, ladies and gents. Okay. We're on for real this time. Alright, we're just gonna organize things autistically because this is how I feel about stuff. And there's really not much anybody can do about this. So, I'm gonna be smoking a pork butt later today. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I'm up and at 'em. Which is probably not good, but you know, c'est la vie, viva la viga. Can I steal your traps? This isn't your trap. I don't give a shit. Let me steal it. Hey. Give me your traps. I don't think she wants to give me her traps. Oh, it's his traps. don't know. We're being stupid. It's a ring of wealth, right? Jesus. All right. I think that's as much socializing as I'm going to do. I'd like to think that I was helping him, but who knows? Okay. It is kind of weird that he would have a ring of wealth, but he can't afford to buy subjugation armor. It is kind of fucking wild. Alright, let's go talk to War. So, what did we want? There's something about like Reapers. I'm not seeing it here though. So I think we want adrenaline crystal, right? That's what we want. I think that's what we want. I'm not sure though. Okay. Well, let's go back at her again. Fuck. Okay, we do have 200k. We're good. Yeah, so. Alright. Oh, fuck. When you ain't got no chin. Fuck. Fire talisman. Fucking get out of here. I don't want that. What am I gonna do with that? Dog's down here with me, just chilling. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Riveting stuff, am I right, guys? Am I right? Riveting stuff, so... yeah, we'll take some Rune 8 Stone Spirit. Fuck yeah, I like that stuff. I've been grinding out Rune ore lately, and this should help, right? At some point, we are going to have to do rituals. Obviously, I'm not going to stream rituals. That would be freaking pointless. Level 87. You love to see it. We're going to get to 90. And when we get to 90, we'll just be able to make the... We'll just be able to make tier 80, I think. Because I think we need less than 4... So, and we have 5, which is going to be nice. We'll just jump up to tier 80. And then this is going to be the difficulty. We're going to have to level up defense all the way up to frickin' 90, which I'm not super happy about. So, yeah, not excited about that. Yeah, I'll take some soul runes. I'll take, that ain't worth much, right? This right here. Yeah, it's not worth much. I didn't think it was, just wanted to check. Necromancy, I'm planning on being our first level 99 skill. We don't have to level up attack to 90, do we? Let's take a look. Okay, 90. Alright, here we go. No, it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be that. No. No. Okay, yeah, no, we don't need to get attacked to level 90, which is nice. Oh, and we'll take that Runate Spirit as well. Yeah, we'll take the Soul Runes. More Soul Runes over here. We'll take those. Why aren't we attacking anything? And let's actually use our aura for the first time ever. Wait a minute. How long does it last? How long does it last? An hour. Okay, yeah. No, that works. Okay, and we got more than 40, so we can go in now. Did we leave behind anything worth grabbing? I don't think so. Yeah. I do want to fight him in hard mode, but not till I have tier 80. Let's get him. Oh shit. I've been poisoned? I will not stand for such nonsense. Okay. We'll take the Wine of Zamorak. Take the coins. There we go. And we'll eat something. Why not? The effects of the Cinder Core are wearing off. Yeah, I'm just like going through these different topics that I've always wanted to kind of discuss. None of them are like really appealing to me. I mean, I guess we could be talking about communism, right? So I've been reading this book. It's really interesting. It's definitely worth checking out. It's written by, let me pull this guy up. He's a journalist. So, super reliable. A Chinese journalist, actually. He used to be a part of the Communist Party in China. He defected. Here we go. I just need to pull up his name.
Accountable for their errors.
Calm down. The World Turned Upside Down by Yang Jixing. And he's, if you've read any of his other stuff, he's known for writing Tombstone, which was about the Great Leap Forward. He used to be heavily involved within the Communist Party, and he became disenfranchised? No. Disillusioned, I think is the right word we're looking for. He became disillusioned with the Communist Party after the Tiananmen Square massacre. And so all of a sudden, the thing that he was like following religiously, it all came crashing down after that event, and it just totally changed his perspective. And so he started doing a bunch of research. Oh, gowns of subjugation. Fuck yeah. Look at that. So now we just need 2 more pieces. That's pretty sexy. Get out of the way, dorks. Not worth it. We'll pick up these coins real quick. So, yeah, anyway. Brutal. So anyway, he became disillusioned with the Communist Party after the massacre at Tiananmen Square. And so now, with all the information and all the research and all the journalisting that he did, all the reporting he did, he's now using for the fight against communism. One of his most famous books, it pops up all the time. And in fact, whenever people talk about the Great Leap Forward, whenever people talk about how many deaths there were, they are more than likely going to be bringing up that they got a lot of the information from this book called Tombstone, which was written by, I already forgot his name, in one ear, out the other, Yang Jixing. So I do apologize that I'm not pronouncing that name correctly, but, you know, it is what it is. So, really good book. Currently the one that I'm reading, though, not the Great Leap Forward, but it's about the Cultural Revolution. So, a lot of people talk about the Cultural Revolution, and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. And I think what really inspired this is I heard, like, James Lindsay say that during the Great Leap Forward, they had something very similar to, like, checking your privilege, right? I mean, obviously they had struggle sessions, but, like, the Han Dynasty, the Hans were the class of people they were specifically targeting. I don't know if that's true, and I wanted to, like, verify the information that I was hearing, right? Because that's, like, for me, it's like, I'll listen to anything, but I'm gonna verify their information. Trust but verify type deal. So I decided to look into some books on the Cultural Revolution, and his book kept popping up over and over and over again. And here's actually what inspired it. I went onto YouTube because I was like, okay, I'm sure there's a ton of videos on the Cultural Revolution. And the first one that I clicked on was like propaganda. Literally, it was propaganda. I couldn't fucking believe what I was hearing. So, like, whenever you're going to read anything about China, and specifically the history of China, there's 2 things to look out for to see if it's, like, propaganda. The first thing to look out for is if they start the video off by saying that the death toll during the Great Leap Forward is greatly exaggerated, propaganda. Just straight up propaganda. In fact, a lot of people are saying, a lot of experts say that the death toll is greatly underestimated. This is just, if you believe in the trust the science people, if you believe in the trust the experts, this is what the experts say. The Great Leap Forward, the death toll is underestimated. Okay? So that's what the experts say. So whenever you click on a video and the video starts off with, well, you know, death toll is greatly exaggerated, propaganda. And it's probably propaganda from like a Stalin communist, right? And it's also important to note that Mao was obsessed with Stalin socialism. What would that be? Because it wasn't Lenin socialism, was it? Anyway, when Stalin died, Russia told the communist parties around the world to look out for what they call a cult of personality, which is kind of funny, right? Because what is Mao but literally a cult of personality? But what's kind of interesting is a lot of the phrasing that we see now, like point of privilege, revisionism, reactionary, these are all political terms coined by the communist, specifically, I think the Communist Manifesto. These are all political terms that have been being used by people like Karl Marx, you know? And what's interesting about the Cultural Revolution is everyone is accusing each other of being reactionaries, right? Conservative reactionaries. Everybody's accusing each other of that. So the reason the Cultural Revolution happens is Mao is able to get everybody to turn red. He turns China red. And then he wants to industrialize the country. And he does so by killing everybody. So essentially what happened is he was like, hey, we're going to industrialize, even though we do not have any of the resources, infrastructure, or equipment to industrialize. What we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of kilns in people's backyards. And instead of people focusing on farming and, like, you know, tending to crops and growing food, we're going to import all of our food, and everybody is just going to focus on industrialization. Well, it didn't work. It killed millions of people, right? Rough estimates, let's pull them up because I'm not a numbers guy and I don't like to keep that I don't want to keep that stuff in my head. Like, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, did you know like 40 million people died during the Great Leap Forward? Death toll, Great Leap Forward. Anywhere from 15 to 55 million people. So we will be conservative and we'll say 15 million people died during the Great Leap Forward. Okay, so 15 million people died during the Great Leap Forward. Woodcutting, fletching. Oh, I might be able to open that up with fletching. What's my fletching at? I think it's like 94, right? Where's fletching? 94. I should be able to open up that starved effigy. I'm so excited. I've never opened one up before. Okay. So, back to brass tacks. Ton of people died during the Cultural Revolution. Oh yeah. So Mao turns China red. And he does the Great Leap Forward, which it tries to industrialize a country that had no industry or no infrastructure to even get the resources for industry. And millions of people died because of it, because of the decisions that he made. And because it was a command economy, and command economies don't work, right? Millions of people die. Now, they need to get out of this, right? Like, this is a big deal. We need to get out of the Cultural Revolution. We need to get out of this famine that's basically happening. And so Mao relinquishes power to certain individuals who help get China out of the Great Leap Forward. And because of that, Mao kind of takes a back seat to controlling the economy, and he becomes more of not a figurehead, but he relinquishes a lot of power due to his fuck-ups during the Great Leap Forward. And so a lot of people around him are starting to gain power, okay? Mao doesn't like this. This is not going to work, right? And so there's a term they use over and over again. I think it's cadre. So let's look up what cadre means. I'm assuming it's like some type of political office. Cadre. No, not padre. The cadre system of the Chinese Communist Party. Ha ha! I found it. I found it. I'm not retarded. Okay, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, maintains a system to train, organize, appoint, and oversee personnel to fulfill a wide range of civil service type roles in party, state, military, business, and other organizations across the People's Republic of China. The system is composed of several million full-time professional staff. China is a one-party state under the CCP. The management of cadres is one of the key ways in which leadership of the CCP controls Chinese society and disciplines the state and the party itself. Personnel must keep an alliance to the CCP and not develop any competing loyalties. To this end, the CCP enforces tight restrictions on the freedom of cadres to affiliate themselves with other organizations. Okay, cadre, politics. So this word keeps coming up over and over again, and we're going to get an actual definition on what cadre is. Okay, I don't like being poisoned, so we're going to fix that. Okay. In a political context, a cadre consists of persons who function as leaders within a political organization. Okay, so it's literally just... Alright, so the cadres were starting to gain power, and it was starting to fragment the power within the Communist Party, and Mao didn't like this. And whether he thought it was bad for communism or whether he thought it was bad because he was losing power is irrelevant. He saw the problem and he said, okay, here's how we're going to fix the problem. We are going to say that people must always be in a constant state of revolution. Now, when you create a society that is in a constant state of revolution, guess what ends up happening? Purity testing, nonstop. And that's what was happening in China. So, specifically, Mao had issues with a lot of the college institutions. So that's where he started his cultural revolutions. And they would do these, what are they called? It's called a character. It's something. Oh, I can't remember. But it's a character poster. So let's find out what a character poster is. I mean, I'm assuming it's just, a character poster is just a political statement, but we'll find out. What is a character poster? Communism. Big character poster. Here we go. Okay. Big character posters, Chinese, are handwritten posters displaying large Chinese characters, usually mounted on walls in public spaces such as universities, factories, government departments, and sometimes directly on the streets. Okay. Yeah, this is the good stuff right here. We're learning so much. They are used as a means of protest, propaganda, and popular communication. A form of a popular political writing, big character poster do not have a fixed format or style and can appear in the form of a letter, slogan, poem, commentary, etc. So here's what was happening. The children of the cadres, and it's difficult because like cadre, it's like ever shifting, okay? So the children of the revolutionaries, they were going to college and they were not doing well in school. And the people who were doing well were like the educated, because that's kind of how it works, right? You go into school and the person who knows the more stuff is going to perform better, okay? And because these kids were probably from an affluent background, because generally education and affluence go hand in hand, not all the time, but generally that's one of the indicators. A lot of the children of these revolutionaries were upset that these kids were getting better treatment than them, and they believed, because they were the descendants of revolutionaries, that China was supposed to be theirs. So they were putting up these big character posters saying that the other side was affluent, they were bourgeois, and they were reactionaries, right? And then the other kids would come back and they would say, we're not reactionaries, we're this, we're that. And they would go back and they would fight, right? And Mao took advantage of this, right? This is how clever Mao was. And he took the side of all the kids who were like freaking out, right? And the reason he did this was because there'd be a cadre in that area who had more power than Mao wanted him to. And so to create instability in that area, he would promote revolution in those colleges. And some of the stuff they would do, like, obviously all of this stuff is, it is the word hearsay. So a lot of this stuff is hearsay. I believe, what's his name again? We've already forgot. Ji Shang. He's getting this all secondhand. Mr. Yang is getting this all secondhand. Okay, I believe he's interviewing people, and he's also accessing like books, and he is like doing research, right? Like it's. I thought I killed him like forever ago. Okay, whatever. It says I've now just killed him 400 times. I feel like I've killed him more than 400 times, but whatever. And so the way that Mao would do this is he would support any type of dissenting voices in that area to create instability, right? And to basically usurp the power that that cadre had garnered up until that point. And so a lot of the stuff, it's all kind of hearsay, the stuff that they would do, but there were stories of them grabbing teachers and bringing them into classrooms and beating the shit out of them. There were examples of them lining up students who were descendants of bourgeois or highly educated or descendants of the cadres, and then they would make them do a struggle session. There would... just lots of like humiliation stuff is really what it was. It was all humiliation stuff. And then what else would they do? Because they did some other crazy shit. Hold on, my brain is like buffering right now. So yeah, no, they would And then they would accuse them of being traitors to the Communist Party. They would accuse them of being reactionaries. And what they believed in at the time, and this died out pretty quickly from my understanding, but it was like blood lineage of the revolutionaries. So they believed because they were related to revolutionaries that they should be the ones in control, not the cadres, right? So they wanted to usurp the power of the cadres is really all it was. And what I find really interesting is communism doesn't solve the issue. So the issue is very real that communism points out. This is a very real problem. Power tends to like, what's the word I'm looking for? It tends to gather, and the more power you have, the more power you start to garner, and it's almost like a snowball effect. But if there's no snowball, if you have no power, it's almost impossible to get power, right? And so, like, religions have spent a lot of time trying to solve this issue. A good example would be Christianity, right? The meek shall inherit the earth. There's a bunch of verses talking about how you need to take care of the poor, how you need to take care of the widowers. An entire religion, right? Like, there's a saying about that historians have for Christianity, and it's essentially, it's the religion of women and slaves, right? Because that's what it was. It was the religion of women and slaves, people who had no power in society. Those were the people who tended to be Christian, okay? Communism rightfully sees that this is unjust, right? The power just keep becoming more powerful, and they keep getting richer, and the poor keep getting poor, and this is not good, and there needs to be just we need to restructure society so that these hierarchies don't exist anymore. But the problem with communism is it rightfully points out the problem and then just swaps the hierarchy. That's all it does. It just swaps the hierarchy. So whenever you hear somebody talking about communism, they're not talking about it because they want to change society. They're talking about it because they're on the bottom and they would like to be on the top. So the interesting thing that I became aware of while I was reading this book, and it's something that's pretty obvious, but if you've never thought about it, it just kind of hits you right in the face like a brick wall. But there are classes of people, and the class of people that I never have a word for, I just call them the elite. But that's not true. These people are often come from the elites, but they are a different class of people. And, the people who govern us, the politician class, right? But who are those? Are they the elites? No. They come from the elites. They are what we call the, the bureaucratic class. That's who they are. The bureaucratic class. And as soon as I heard the bureaucratic class, suddenly my problem with communism started to filter down to this one phrase. Communism gives too much power to the bureaucratic class. Now, here's the thing. The bureaucratic class is extremely important, right? They play a huge role in society. I'm not an anarchist. I do think they serve a purpose. But I'm a firm believer in the decentralization of power. And unfortunately, socialism, which is the things we have to do before communism, socialism gives the bureaucratic class way too much power. In fact, it gives it absolute power. And this is why socialism has never worked. Now, as inefficient and as frustrating as a democratic republic is, it at least decentralizes the power. Now, what's funny is a lot of people, They forget that we live in a republic. They just think we live in a democracy. We don't. We live in a republic. And the reason this is important, I'll tell you why this is important. Because in a democracy, the common people have too much power. And then they elect somebody like Hitler, right? Or they elect somebody like Donald Trump, right? In a democratic republic, you elect the dude, that's your democracy, and you also elect the politicians, but these politicians work against the president, right? So that's the House of Representatives, Congress, the Supreme Court. These are all examples of power being decentralized and fragmented to different areas. And this is essential if you want to run a cohesive society, right? But in China, in the Communist Party of China, they don't do it like that, right? Because they're communist. All the power goes to the bureaucratic class. And it's like you ask yourself, like, why hasn't any country ever actually become communist? Why has this never happened? Because communism is impossible. Just straight up. This idea that economies and power will become centralized to local areas within a country is ridiculous. Never going to happen. And in fact, in the United States of America, right? We live in a United States. Those states, with each passing year, lose more and more power while the federal government starts to gain more and more power over those states. And you can be upset about it, and maybe you'd be right to be upset about it, but it's important to understand that for us to work on a global scale, we need a federal government, right? It's just to fragment all that power between communities doesn't work. Which is why all these communist countries are still stuck in the socialism step. I mean, I understand China claims to be communist. They're really not. They're still just straight up socialist. You know? "30 minutes left in the instance." Oh no. Well, we did get a gown of subjugation, which is good. That is really good news, actually. I am really happy about that. So, the cadres gaining too much power. Mao doesn't like this. Now he either sees this as a threat to him personally, or he sees this as a threat to communism. Who knows? Who cares? So he starts the Cultural Revolution, and he goes through the kids. He goes through children. He goes through young adults who are disenfranchised, who are at college, who are stupid and easily wound up, and that's essentially what happens. So he says some things like, we need to be in a constant state of revolution, which, by the way, that phrase right there is what inspired Pol Pot of Cambodia to do what the fuck he did, because children are obsessed with the idea of constant revolution. It's exciting, right? And it's this idea where it's like, oh, we're constantly going to be rebelling against the establishment. This is amazing. This is what the postmodernists talk about. This is what all of your stupid artsy-fartsy liberal arts degree idiots talk about. They love to rebel against the establishment. And they want to be in a constant state of rebelling against the establishment, right? Like, I was reading a book, it's called The Science Delusion. I was hoping it was going to be a really interesting book. No, it was just some pompous idiot talking about how science is at its best when it challenges preconceived notions of truth. What? No, it's not. And then he tried to make the argument that the reason art is so awesome is because art is always challenging the establishment. And I'm like, no, art is not always challenging the establishment. First of all, there's a thing called fascistic art during the Nazi regime. They had an art style. I don't know if you knew that or not. Not only that, Mao specifically was really upset with artists in China right before the Cultural Revolution. Do you know why? Because all the good artists were not in support of communism, right? All the good artists were making art that wasn't for the revolution, that wasn't supporting the Communist Party. And this drove Mao insane because he believed that art should only ever serve the purpose of serving the Communist Party. Art should always serve the Communist Party. And at the time, it wasn't. And so he was really upset about that. Really frustrated by that. So just remember, art is not a critique to anything. Art is just a thing. And you can use it as a critique, or you can use it in support of, right? State-sponsored art is a fucking thing. And if you don't know what that is, I mean, like, just do some research, right? So, okay, cool. We have state-sponsored art in China. We have state-sponsored art, I think, in Sweden. We have state-sponsored art here in America, too. Like, it's absolutely a thing. So the Science Delusion book was really a frustrating book to get through because it was like somebody who did not have any amount of self-awareness, like, at all, you know? It was a super pretentious book. I would not recommend checking it out. Poisoned already. Look at that. That was quick. Okay, so moving on from that, we get back to constant state of revolution. Power is being passed on from the cadres to this new form of the dictatorship of the proletariat. Literally what it's called, the dictatorship of the proletariat. And it swaps hands over to the people who were the children of revolutionaries, right? That's where the power goes to. China is ours. The country is ours. The world is ours, right? Like, that's the type of stuff they'd be chanting and saying. Now, here's the problem with living in a constant state of revolution. I don't know if you guys have figured this out or not, but you can't get anything done. You can't get anything done when you're in a constant state of revolution, right? So, to create stability once more, Mao has to figure out what the fuck he's going to do with all these wild chillins, all these kids burning things up, tackling people, killing people. What are we going to do with all of these fanatic, foaming of the mouth communists? What are we going to do with all these kids? Well, we can't keep them in society. We can't keep them here. They're fucking everything up. What do we do with them? You know what we do with them? We tell them, you have forgotten what it's like to be the proletariat. So you're going to go work on the farms. You're going to go to the work camps so that you can remember what it's like to be the proletariat. So just remember, this is what will happen in a communist society, because this is what happens. It always happens. There will be a cult of personality who will come and take power, kind of like Trump, right? That's how fascism starts. Fascism starts with a cult of personality. Communism starts within a cult of personality. They come in, they seize power, and then they create instability within the government and within the country so that they can seize more power. And then the people they use to create instability, they get rid of them. And whether that's through sending them to the gulag, or whether that's to sending them to re-education or work camps, they do something with the fanatics. And it's not good. So if you're one of these people who's like, yeah, fighting the good fight for communism, look at this, the garb. Oh, guys, this is so good. One more piece. One more piece. Isn't this great news? Just one right after the other. This is fantastic. We have been grinding this out all day, This is finally, we're getting it just like, pow, pow. This is fantastic. So, you know, if you're easily misled into being a fanatic terrorist, right? This is, you know, the people who are supporting this, you know, like the rich elites who are supporting this, the champagne sipping socialists, they will be the first to go. And then the next to go are the people that were used to get the champagne sipping socialists, you know. So the everyday people, they'll be sent off to work camps, they'll be sent off to re-education centers, they'll be sent off to the gulag, whatever you want to call it. That's how you get rid of the fanatics, you know, once you're done with them. And that's what Mao did. And it's and it's funny because what I was told, and I need to do some more research to see if this is true. What I was told is all of these workers, farmers, were upset that they were getting all of these city kids who didn't know how to do anything and were actually more of a nuisance than they were helping. So a lot of those kids, they end up starving, dying, disappearing, you know. So and they were used to usurp the power from the local cadres, you know. So just in case you're a part of this type of movement, just understand where your future is. Play the game really well, okay? Don't get outsmarted. Don't do it. Because outsmarted in a communist regime means death, you know? Not like in a capitalist regime. You get outsmarted in a capitalist regime, it's just like, oh, dude, sucks to suck. Get back on the horse, try again, right? But in a communist regime, you get outsmarted, and that's it. Game over. You do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You do not get to restart. It's over permanently. So, things to think about. I haven't gotten through the whole book. It's a really, really interesting book. So it's really difficult to get through. And I'll tell you why it's really difficult to get through. Because you are just inundated with Chinese names. And not to be offensive, but because I don't speak the language, when I hear a Chinese name, it's hard for me to focus. Especially when I hear a bunch of them in succession. Because like it's just like boom, boom, boom. And my brain doesn't associate those sounds with names. So it's hard for me to like retain that information. It's hard for me to focus. Especially when I'm just getting slapped with name after name after name after name. And what you need to understand about this book, I think it's Turning the World Upside Down is the title. The World Turned Upside Down. What you need to understand about this book is it's not just talking about things in you go and sit in a classroom, right? And your teacher is just like, well, here's the Cultural Revolution, and here's the things that happened, right? Kind of like what I'm doing. In this book, it's names. These are who these people were in control. This is what their job was, and this is what happened, which led to them being removed from the party, or jumping out of a window, or being sent to prison, or being re-educated, right? And it's name after name after name after name, and it's just a lot, right? Because what Mao is doing is anybody that is like even a hint of showing any type of dissent, oh, you got to get rid of that guy. Got to get rid of that guy. So it's really fascinating because it's like, it's funny. It's Game of Thrones is what the fuck it is. It is Game of Thrones. It's so interesting. So if you like Game of Thrones, right? If you like the political intrigue and backstabbing, I highly recommend looking into the CCP or reading about the Communist Revolution, because that's all that stuff is. And it's in Russia too, right? Same exact things happen in Russia. That will probably be the next thing that I look into, is Stalin's Russia. So, yeah, and what's interesting about this guy, he would still be a communist to this day if it wasn't for the massacre at Tiananmen Square. Or as China likes to say, what massacre? So, yep. Yeah, I've been obsessed with communism for a couple of years now. And the reason I've been obsessed with communism is because growing up as a kid, I was always told communism is bad, communism is evil, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. It never works. Communism is good in theory, it never works in practice. That's the line we're all fed as kids. But we're never really told what communism is. Right? And it wasn't until about 3 or 4 years ago, mind you, I'm 30. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 years ago where I finally learned the difference between socialism and communism. What? You're telling me I was 27 years old before I finally learned the difference? Nobody taught me the difference? And that's because nobody actually knows the difference between communism and socialism unless you're really politically aware, right? So the difference between communism and socialism, just so that we're aware, socialism is simply a stepping stone towards communism, right? This is step one. Step one is revolution. Step two is socialism. And socialism is always a stepping stone towards communism. Socialism was never supposed to be a constant state, right? Or at least this is what Karl Marx said. Socialism is when the state redistributes the wealth. So how do you redistribute wealth, right? There's a guy with $1 million. How do you redistribute his wealth? You can't redistribute his wealth, right? You need to have some force to redistribute the wealth. And the only force that could exist to redistribute that wealth is a legal force, which is why you would have to set up a government, and the government is supposed to be temporary. You set up a government to redistribute the wealth evenly and to create stability. Once you create that fertile ground, communism is supposed to sprout up from it. Now, what's communism? Because now you're probably sitting there and you're probably going, wait a minute. That's socialism? I thought that was communism. I thought that was communism too. I thought socialism was communism light. It's not. Socialism and communism are two very, very different fucking things, okay? Very different things. So the truth is, socialism is when the government owns everything. Communism is when the community owns everything. So now, after the state has redistributed the wealth evenly amongst the people, okay, and has created the stability and the fertile ground for communism to sprout from, what will happen is the government will serve its purpose and then cease to exist. And now you know why we've never gotten past socialism. This is why. This is why we've never gotten past socialism to communism. That right there. It's because the bureaucratic class will never let go of the power that you gave them. And the bureaucratic class will start to enrich themselves with all the redistribution of wealth. This is why the bureaucratic class is the wealthiest class during a socialist revolution. It's whoa, how did you get all this power and money? Oh, it's because I just took it from other people and gave it to myself. That's how. So this is why communism has never actually ever happened. So, here's the thing though. Just because socialism is bad doesn't mean that things that socialism doesn't mean everything that is socialist is bad, right? So the redistribution of wealth is something governments have been doing since forever. Socialism didn't come up with this idea. Karl Marx didn't come up with the redistribution of wealth. He came up with the mass scale of redistribution of wealth. But reality is, what do you think taxes are? Taxes are a redistribution of your wealth to the state. And then the question becomes, well, what should the state do with that money? Now, some people say helping out the poor is socialism. I don't think it is. Just because the government is redistributing wealth, that doesn't mean socialism. Okay? Socialism, to me, it's not just a political form, it's also an economic policy as well. And socialism is like controlled markets, which we have a little bit of. We do have a little bit of control on our markets. We have rules and regulations. One could argue that that's socialism. I wouldn't spend a lot of time arguing with you. You're probably right. But when people say government does thing, that's socialist. It's really not. It's because then socialism has always existed, and every form of government has always been socialist. Like, it's a moot point. It doesn't mean anything when you say this, right? And I like for words to have meaning. Okay, so that's why I have like the issue of the watering down of the term socialism. I really do have an issue with that. Not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. Oh man. There we go. Fantastic. Got a little rant about socialism and communism, as I like to do, as I am one to do. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It's like we don't live in a purely capitalist society either, you know? A purely capitalist society wouldn't work. And in fact, we got to see how detrimental a purely capitalist society is during the greatest example of it is the mining companies back in the day. You know, have you guys ever heard the song 14 Tons? You know? 14 Tons, you know that song? I owe my soul to the company store. Do 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 do. Right? That song. Oh, sorry, I'm tone deaf. Right? It's not that I'm tone deaf. It's that I can't do the tones. I guess there's a difference between that. I'm incapable of doing the tones. I know what the tones sound like in my head, and when I say them, I know it's not the right tone. So I'm not tone deaf. I just can't mimic the tone. I owe my soul to the company store. Something like that. Okay, so that song right there, that's based off of the coaling operations, especially in the Appalachians, right? So what these mining companies would do, it's fucking wild. They would set up these mining towns, okay? And they would import the workers, and the workers would come in, and then they would move into this mining town. And the mining company would pay them not in money. This is the crazy part. They wouldn't pay them in money. They would pay them in coupons or like Monopoly money that could only be spent at the company store, or it could only be spent for your house, right? Or for your tools. You couldn't, or for food and resources that was owned by the mining company. You couldn't take that money and go to the corner store down the street. Well, it wouldn't be down the street. It would be literally in the county next to you, and you couldn't spend that money there. So you were literally trapped working at this mining company forever, right? And the unions back in those days, this is what they were asking for. They were asking for an 8-hour work week, pay us real money, give us a raise. That's it. Not an 8-hour work week, an 8-hour work day. Excuse me. That'd be wild. 8 hours, just work 8 hours a day, 8 hours a week. That'd be fucking... I wouldn't even know what to do with all my time. Holy fuck. That would be insane. That would be insanity. So, yeah, no, that's fucking wild. So yeah, that's the union was literally just asking for them to pay them money. But anyway, that's an example of capitalism out of control. Monopolies, another great example of capitalism out of control. So the truth is, like any pure anything just doesn't work, okay? So does communism work? Maybe not in its purest form, but maybe elements of communism wouldn't be so bad, you know? Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if the community had a fund that they could distribute to the people, you know? That's what your city council is supposed to do. And, you know, maybe everyone could go to your city council and y'all could take votes on what you should do with the money you guys have received in taxes, you know? So maybe communism in small doses could work, but you would need to have a very, what's the word? Like a super cohesive society. Like everybody needs to be on the same page. A diverse community with people from all over the country probably would not work. And just so we're aware, when I say diverse, I don't mean like different skin tones. When I say diverse, I mean like somebody from New York, somebody from LA, somebody from Texas. That's a diverse community. But if it's like people who have been living in a community whose parents lived in that community, whose grandparents lived in that community, you're going to create a very cohesive society. It's not going to be locally diverse, and it probably won't even be culturally diverse, but it would still be a society that could probably work with communism. I think the problem with communism is if you have a diverse set of cultures, it's just not going to work, right? It just won't work. Because group cohesion needs to be the most important thing in a communist community. So that's when people need to start asking themselves serious questions. If you're really in support of communism, like, what are some things? What are some things that you're willing to let go of in order to get that, you know? So, you know, I don't know. Don't listen to me. I don't have a jaw. I don't have a chin. I'm a fucking dork. Okay, don't listen to me. But that's why I'm surprised there hasn't been more racial communism. I'm very surprised by that. Because that's the only way in my head where I could see communism actually even working. You'd also have to have a really high trust society too. Isn't that funny? Like, you would have to have a hegemonic culture, and then you would also have to have a high trust society. And when we think about communism and socialism, the two countries we think of is like Russia and China, the places with the most low trust society that you can like think of. Oh fuck. Japan is a really high trust society from what I've been told, but they are pretty they have a pretty cohesive culture too, right? I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Japan. I've actually never even spoken to someone from Japan. That's not true. I have. I've never spoken to someone from Japan about Japan. So I am literally, I actually do not know anything about Japan except what I've been told. I owe my soul to the company store. $16 times. What do you get? What's the song? Poor Man's Made out of, Mud and steel? What is it? It's 16 tons, not 14 tons, right? 16 tons. Yeah, it's 16 tons. Okay. Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood and skin and bones. A mind that's weak and that's I don't know. I don't fucking know. It's been a long time since I've heard the song. You got 16 tons. What do you go? You load 16 tons. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me St. Peter, don't call me 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. It's a good song. It's actually worth listening to because like that's like straight up that is American history right there. That's American history for all you historical nubs out there. Okay, so after this kill, I don't know, I might take a nap. Cool down 3 hours, okay. I can't believe we got 2 gowns of subjugation. So exciting. We'll take some Zammy brews too. Oh yeah, we'll do a starved effigy as well. Because we should have the right fletching level. Oh yeah, we can just teleport to the Grand Exchange. Oh, dude, that feels so good. 5, 7. We just need one more. let's hold on. We'll put this one back. We'll take a starved effigy. And then we'll ask. Rune crafting, summoning, construction, and thieving. Okay. Let's go to the Varrock Museum real quick. Just to kind of see what this is about. If I remember correctly, the Varrock Museum should be over here. $16 tons. What do you get? Okay, so the Varrock Museum is right there. Yep. That's got to be it, right, guys? Who do I talk to? I do have a strange rock I could add to it, actually. Let's do that real quick. Oh, I need both pieces? That was a bust. Oh, I can't take my follower down there. I don't know. This is already like more than I want it to be. Let's go up here. This is probably the guy I need to talk to. Let's do it again. Okay, let's see how much XP it gives. $5,000, not bad. 10,000 XP, that's not bad. I'm so close to opening up the relic. Fire making or cooking? Yeah. Alright, I think I'm gonna go take a nap. This was a nice little stream. Y'all stay good to each other, you know, fucking keep vibing the way that you guys vibe. It's always fun.